Part 86. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 859. The years are ruthless, modeled on the stone tablet. In 5,000 years, this stone tablet has not turned into a fossil, so there is definitely an inside story. Without hesitation, Yi Lin took advantage of the thousands of flying swords in the sword tomb to swing left and right under the mental attack of the mind-body, and came to the wordless sky monument and pressed it upward with her palm. The next second, Yi Lin triggered the switch, and the corresponding font appeared in front of her eyes. Decoding in progress. Working hard to decode. We are working very hard to decode. Drop. Decoding successful. You finally found this place. This is message number 3. Number 3. Where is no 2? When Yi Lin saw this, he felt confused, but his questions were destined to remain unanswered, so he could only read on patiently. A long time ago, a long time ago, a long time ago. I was born. Being born with me, there was also Zyle Garden. I, who owns 11 paradise, arrived at that sea area without any obstruction during the voyage. The corrupt masters cannot sit back and watch the birth of the 10th. So, the war started. You followed our footsteps, chased after the remnants of history, and witnessed our failure and fall. But we also left a fire for you 5,000 years later. This is the last hope. There will be no third chance. The source has dried up. Zizi. The message ends here. What Yi Lin had to complain about was that it was obviously a text message, but at the end of the message, there was an electric noise in her ears. Hiss. It turns out this is actually a video message. No wonder the stone tablet ran out of memory, so it ended after just a few words. But when Yi Lin thought about it, she suddenly figured out something, which was terrifying to think about. Xiao 11, who came to this world 5,000 years ago and ruled the world as the 7th ultimate empress, did not expect all his trajectories 5,000 years later. The serial number of the message she left said it all. Xiao 11 just arranged some routes, but in the end whether Yi Lin will completely follow these routes depends on fate. Just like now. Yi Lin accidentally missed message number 2. But this is not a big problem. Anyway, the message contains some fragmented information. In the end, Yi Lin has to rely on her brain to fill in, splice, and re-edit it before it can be read normally. It seems that the generation of gods I experienced in UK Town was an afterimage of history. But the strange thing is that Xiao 11 in the Age of Gods did interact with me for a few minutes. If Yi Lin guessed correctly, Xiao 11 should have come to this world through some means after experiencing the destruction of Uruk, and left her footprints. When the noisy sound of electricity ended, Yi Lin's thinking also ended. After all, he was still in the state of analytical vision at the moment, his thinking speed was off the charts, and he figured out a lot of things in an instant. He thought this was the end, and was about to look for the sword on his shoulder that Brother Green was talking about. What happened next made Yi Lin stare, very surprised. Click. The stone tablet fell apart like it was peeling off its clothes. Then, it crashed and shattered on the ground. Yi Lin was stunned, thinking that she hadn't started tossing yet, so why did it break? There was a stick stuck in the moss-mottled gravel. Chi 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 chi. Green on his shoulder suddenly laughed strangely. Listening to Green's gloating laughter, Yi Lin seemed to understand that Green's fighter in the garbage should be referring to the stick in front of him. I don't know what material the stick is made of. The surface is covered with red and green rust stains. Yi Lin's injury to his right hand had not fully recovered, but at this moment, he didn't care so much and risked contracting tetanus and pulled out the stick with force. Boo! At first glance, the stick looks unremarkable, but upon closer inspection, it seems a bit familiar. After a few more glances, the corners of Yi Lin's eyes began to twitch, and he had already recognized it. It's Gilgamesh's deviant sword. Key to Heaven Deviation. Level Legend, 1/7. Durability Infinity, Damaged State. Restrictions can only be used after signing a contract with the Emperor. Effect Separation of Heaven and Earth, Opening up Chaos. Explanation Yes, this is one of the keys. Yulin felt that in this worldview, the style of drawing Gilgamesh's deviant sword was strange. But since Xiao 11 had appeared here before, Yulin felt that no matter what happened here, he wouldn't find it strange unless he couldn't hold himself back. The moment he pulled out the Gailai sword, even if it was only in a damaged state, the flying swords that were crumbling behind him and about to move fell silent instantly. Countless flying swords fell from mid-air one after another and were inserted back into the cracked ground. Dust to ashes, dust to dust, everyone returns to his own home. The light on the flying sword was dim and did not dare to bubble. It seemed that the moment Gailai Jian appeared, they were all frightened. After Yilin looked back for a few seconds and repeatedly confirmed that the seniors in the sword tomb would no longer pretend to be corpses and demons, Yilin's breath disappeared, the bloody light faded, and she returned to normal. Bloodthirsty Catastrophe Solutions 1 to 5 correspond to 5 levels. These 5 levels increase the intensity of Yilin's increase and side effects step by step. In fact, after final use, the accumulated attribute improvements and subsequent side effects are not much different from those before the skill was lifted. But the flexibility is far beyond the original skills. What's more, Bloodthirsty Catastrophe also has a super solution mode, which becomes the real trump card. After the blood had dissipated, Yilin's face showed a hint of exhaustion. But it doesn't matter, it's not a big problem. Using 4 layers of blood intent in batches, he could withstand the side effects. Furthermore, he is protected by someone in Tianjian section who dares to provoke him. It's very safe. Yilin walked in the decaying and dark sword tomb, swung the rusty sword of betrayal, and fell into deep thought. Yilin was thinking about the connection between the appearance of Gailajian here and Xioxi's layout in this world. In Age of Gods, when Gilgamesh pulled out the Sword of Oblivion from the king's treasure, Yilin felt at that time that the shape of the Sword of Oblivion was more like a stick than a sword or a stick. Key. Now in the attribute interface of Gailai sword, Yilin confirmed her first impression. The Gailai sword is a key. A key and great sword that can cut down monsters, kill people, destroy cities, crack the ground, and open the sky. The rusty Gailai sword looked as if it could be shattered into powder with one hand, but it was extremely heavy in Yilin's hand. Yilin could even feel a strange feeling of blood dependence. From the connection between the handle and the palm, there were waves of faint pulses. Staring at Gailai Jian, Yilin felt a heat between her brows. The next second, the Gailai sword was actually in his hand, shrunk strangely, and then got into Yilin Miai's heart. Yilin was slightly startled, and he quickly sat down on the spot. A circle of data stream appeared on his right wrist, and he patted his chest and entered the hub. Yellow sand is flying. On that clear lake. There is one more sword. A rusty deviant sword. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 860. When walking out of the sword tomb, the young man looked tired and his eyes were full of disappointment. It only took Yilin a short time to get in and out. Can still make it in time for dinner. Nai Shanhe and Chen Bei, who had been standing at the door, feeling the strange movement in the sword tomb, were stunned. The boy's hands were empty. The results are clear at a glance. Even Chen Bei didn't believe that Yilin could refine the flying sword into life in a short period of time. In addition, the sleeve of the young man's right arm was missing, and his arm was scarred, black and purple. It was obvious that he had suffered many blows. Alas! Chen Bei stepped forward and comforted the young man. It doesn't matter. I have already expected that with your current level of cultivation, it will not be easy to get Fijian's approval from the sword tomb. Nai Shanhe had a cold face, put his hands behind his back, and said calmly, Practice is like sailing against the current. If you don't advance, you will retreat. Apparently they all got it wrong. But this is also normal. It is estimated that now that Yulin has clarified the misunderstanding and said that she actually brought out the most powerful sword, they will not believe it even to death. Therefore, Yulin simply acquiesced and shrugged, "Let's talk about it next time. It doesn't matter, I will take you to Mount Sumuru tomorrow, to try your luck." Chenbei felt extremely guilty. Yulin felt that she almost couldn't stand up and laughed out loud, so she nodded quickly, "Thank you, Lao Chen, I'll go back first." "Go ahead." Chenbei waved his hand, with a bit of disappointment on his face. After Yulin left, Nishan he looked at the back of Yulin Kahi leaving, walked up to Chenbei, and shook his head, "Uncle Master, you may have made a mistake this time." Chenbei frowned and said nothing. Nishan he continued, "This boy has excellent understanding, but his mind is wild and untrained, he is wandering around, and he does not have the perseverance that a practitioner should have. In the end, I am afraid that it will be difficult to achieve greatness." Chenbei waved his hand, "Well, you don't understand. For some reason, I always feel that I see the shadow of the old man in him. I still can't tell how he can compare to me when I was young. But Zaya don't forget that we, the cultivators, can sense the secrets of heaven, follow the way of heaven, and don't underestimate the spontaneous reactions in the dark." Nishan he didn't answer. He still stands by his opinion. Chenbei said with a smile, "It is normal for young people to have a childish heart and to aim high. Maybe the setback will make Lin Yi realize his shortcomings and finally make up his mind to practice hard. I am here, I have been watching Yuban for 60 years, and I have seen all kinds of disciples, and I will never misjudge anyone." The next day. Early morning. Chenbei came to Yilinwood House. The scene before him shocked him. A green-breasted crane was squatting by the bonfire, eagerly looking at the strings of grilled wild mushrooms on the bonfire. A little strange powder was sprinkled on the wild mushrooms, which gave off a strange fragrance. "Hey, Lao Chen, you're here just in time, let's have breakfast." The young man's face remained as usual, smiling and waving to Chenbei. The corner of Chenbei's mouth twitched, and he pointed his finger at the young man, shaking it several times, but he didn't know what to say, so he could only sit opposite Yulin angrily. He thought that if he came early in the morning, he could see Yulin getting up early to breathe out. "I didn't expect you to be having a barbecue. Can you still be a little more ambitious? Wait a minute, what kind of mushroom is this? Smell good. What kind of mushroom are you talking about?" "Wild mushrooms," Yulin said matter-of-factly, handing a bunch of roasted wild mushrooms to Chenbei, showing an innocent smile. "Before I was on Baiko Mountain, I passed by a garden full of flowers and plants, picked by chance. Oh, don't tell me, I found that you have a lot of ingredients here, you can cook them however you want, and it will be a pure natural delicacy. Where's the pink powder on top?" "It's also a kind of wild grass on Baiko Mountain. It smelled a bit like pepper, so I tried drying it and grinding it into powder. I didn't expect it to be much more fragrant than pepper," Yulin replied. "Black pepper? What is pepper?" Chenbei had never heard of this ingredient, but this did not prevent him from eating breakfast. After asking a few words casually, Chenbei took a bite while it was hot. Immediately Chenbei subconsciously took a breath of the fairy mountain morning mist, it was so fragrant. This mushroom melted in the mouth, and was sweet and delicious. The moment he bit into it, it was obviously mushroom food, but it was like biting into a juicy fruit. The aroma and juice in his mouth completely conquered his taste buds. The most peculiar thing is this kind of open flame roasted, fragrant and sweet taste, coupled with the slight spiciness mixed in the layer of weird fine powder, it seems to sublimate this unique taste to another realm. If I insist on using poor words to describe this taste, that is, the taste of cleansing the soul. It smells good. It smells good. It smells so good. It smells so good. Qianbei ate 7 or 8 skewers in one go. Yilin was deeply familiar with the art of taming animals. Seeing the female crane looking at her uncomfortably, Yilin took the initiative to stuff a few skewers into Xiaoqing's mouth. The pupils in Xiaoqing's narrow red phoenix eyes seemed to have turned into a peach heart shape. Tears of emotion flowed from the corners of his eyes, and his mouth tilted to one side in joy. In fact, Yilin did not predict Chen Baifen at the beginning. No one would have thought that Qianbei would come here so early in the morning to block people. Fortunately, Yilin had enough stock. He grabbed a few skewers on the bonfire and slurped down his breakfast. With his other hand, he grabbed a few skewers that had been prepared in advance and put them on the bonfire. From time to time, he turned the angle of the barbecue to adjust the heat. Ren used both hands and was very busy. At first, it was because it was so fragrant that Qianbei stuffed it into his mouth without any thought. After the wild fresh mushrooms were grilled, their shape would shrink slightly, but Qianbei didn't notice. But after eating a few skewers, the more Qianbei ate, the more strange he felt. Ordinary wild mushrooms, even if they grow in Baiko Mountain, which is full of spiritual energy, would not be like eating spiritual energy. Every bite made Qianbei feel like his meridians were expanding and his acupuncture points were pulsating. Pleasure. Wait, Baiko Mountain? Qianbei's eyes suddenly widened. He seemed to be selectively blind before. Now that his eyes were no longer blind, he finally discovered that there were several thin bloodlines on the surface of the wild mushroom, which were dazzlingly scarlet. Isn't this the red blood Ganoderma that was planted in Yelao's top-secret garden, worked day and night, without sleep, and worked hard to cultivate it with essence, blood, and spiritual energy for hundreds of years? It turns out this thing is called red blood Ganoderma. Yilin suddenly realized. How dare you, Qianbei reprimanded the young man bitterly along the way, if Mr. Yi really finds out that you roasted and eaten the century-old red-blooded Ganoderma lucidum that is so precious in his garden, I, Qianbei, can't protect you. Yilin blinked. Don't you enjoy eating too? Qianbei, Lin Yi, the wild mushrooms this morning are so fragrant. Yeah, it's just a wild mushroom, but I didn't expect it to be so fragrant. Qianbei agreed, yes, just wild mushrooms. In words, the two reached a consensus. God knows this, you know it, I know it, and the crane knows it. Anyway, it's all eaten into the stomach. Could it be that he, Liang Chen, would go to the latrine to remove the excrement and test it? It's a big deal, but after that, just spend some more effort to muddy the sky, so that Liang Chen from Tai Mountain can't figure out any clues, and it will be perfect. Qianbei was completely relieved when he thought about it. Just eat it. Just be more careful next time. With both regret and joy in mind, Qianbei took Yilin to Mount Sumeru to ask for a Nai ring. The process of asking for the Nirvana precept is not as complicated as asking for the flying sword of life. If it matters, you can just take it. Although Qianbei has not appeared in front of young people for many years, who is Qianbei? After the senior brother, the current head of the clan, revealed his identity, Qianbei brought Yilin to the door of the treasury where many Najis were stored. The refining technology of Naja has long been lost. The Najis used by our monks today were all obtained from the ruins of ancient battlefields many years ago by our seniors. Over the years, except for the Najis that have been distributed to outstanding disciples in the sect, now there are only 98 Najis left in Mount Sumeru. 98 pieces sounds like a lot, but let alone other sects, the monks in Tianjian sect, let alone one for each person, can barely get one for every 10 people. Yilin made some calculations, felt moved, and patted Qianbei on the shoulder. I'll treat you to roasted Ganoderma lucidum next time. Okay. Qianbei Gong agreed subconsciously, but immediately covered Yilin's mouth. No, please don't, I don't want Mr. Ye to worry about him. That old boy is very serious. You don't know, when I was young, I had an argument with Mr. Ye and got really angry. I accidentally chopped off a corner of his Baiko mountain with a sword, damaging his spiritual veins. He was so angry that he filed a complaint with the headmaster, insisting that I pay him another piece of the garden. Oh, no wonder that mountain looks like it's been chewed by a dog. Yilin slapped her thigh and understood. This Naja in Mount Sumeru is said to be obtained by those who are destined to get it, but it is actually a lottery system with a special formation built in. Those who are destined to win the lottery will be able to take one. If you don't win, you can only continue to do the secular tasks assigned by the master to increase your contribution points and wait for the next opportunity. Chen felt that he owed Yilin, so he asked Yilin to skip the lottery process, went directly to the back door, took one from the box, and threw it into Yilin's hand. This is what Chen calls trying your luck. The ring in Yilin's hand was dark and dull, and it didn't look like a high-end product. Yilin took a look into the box. He originally wanted to pick and choose, but he found that these rings were all of the same style, and there was no distinction between them. So Yilin frowned and reluctantly accepted this ordinary ring. How to use? The two walked out of the warehouse. On the way, Yilin held up Naja and asked. It's simple, just squeeze out a drop of blood and drip it on the ring. Hearing this, Yilin took out a knife and slashed his finger, and blood dripped on a ring. The surface of Naja is like a sponge, instantly absorbing the few drops of blood without leaking. Next, a hazy shimmer appeared on the dark surface of the ring. A line of tiny numbers flashed on the ring. Yilin has an eye problem, those 4 numbers are clearly 1010. Yilin was stunned. Isn't this his apostle registration ID? This string of digital IDs flashed by, making Yilin feel like she was in another world. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 861. Came back. All are back. 13 years later, when Yilin's perception penetrated into the ring and checked the content space of the ring, she couldn't help but sigh. Everything is back. Storage space. It turns out that this is the true face of storage space. The Naja, which should have been empty, was filled with Yilin's personal belongings. Although the matter has come to this, it does not matter that these small items cannot be returned, but who would dislike having so many treasures? I see. After losing it and finding it again, Yilin narrowed her eyes and vaguely understood the reason behind it. This Naja is equivalent to a portal, and this portal can open a subspace where things are stored. When Yilin came back to the world through reincarnation, it can be said that she lost most of her identity as an apostle, and she also lost contact with the storage space. The storage space is not an absolutely safe top-secret space. During the trial at Styx Junior High School, Lu Ruyan relied on the monster thief prop to bypass the barrier of the storage space and store Yilin's belongings. Things in the space were stolen. Yilin put on the NA ring, and the light on the NA ring disappeared again. Xiao 11's arrangement feels like refreshing me. Is there any deep meaning in it? Yilin felt strange, but for a while, she couldn't find an answer. I know you still have doubts in your heart, you are doubting the meaning of your coming to this world. But trust me, you will understand eventually. Yilin recalled that a year ago, there was a certain sentence in the message that appeared on the wordless monument in Qingyu Mountain. Thinking about this, Yilin shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Again. They come, the security. The only thing he has to do now is to follow the footsteps of the Qiju Empress in this world, find them and achieve himself. Without strength, everything is empty talk. Don't go around saying that I gave you the convenience. Before the two separated, Chen warned carefully. Yilin agreed wholeheartedly, which relieved Chen Bei's heart. After a few days, Yulin is still busy as usual, day and night. He did not forget the agreement he made with Jian Nanchun. After all, he, Lin Yi, was a man who kept his promises. So one day, Yulin suddenly thought about it and took the time to climb the Discipline Mountain. Yulin doesn't come to Discipline Mountain often. On the mountain, there is a discipline hall, which is responsible for administering the rules of the Tianjian sect. There is no need to give examples, it is clear at a glance. Once a disciple within the sect violates the sect rules, the discipline hall will be responsible for enforcing the rules. Even if he escapes into the secular world, the discipline hall will send people to chase him to the ends of the earth without mercy. There is nothing to learn here. Yulin went to the discipline elder Bai Taixin as usual and showed Chen Bei's wordless order. After Bai Taixin coldly threw Yulin a registered disciple token, Yulin went down the mountain that day and met Bai Taixin. Not much interaction. But in Yulin's impression, Bai Taixin was a very serious old man, unsmiling and very strict with his disciples. Under Bai Taixin's sect, as long as the level reaches the inner sect, he is also a member of the discipline hall. Once something happens in the Heavenly Sword sect, the disciples of the discipline hall are all dressed in black uniforms, with the word G scrawled on the back, and the whole army attacks in a furious manner. I heard that it was very exciting and powerful. They are like the police in Tianjianmen. Even if Yulin was not familiar with the layout of Commandment Mountain, he still knew where Jian Nanchun lived. After Yulin rode Xiaoqing and entered the mountain with his token, he found Jian Nanchun in the valley to the southeast of the Commandment Mountain, in a wooden house surrounded by white flowers. Jian Nanchun has obviously lost weight. When Yulin came, he was sitting blankly on the top of the wooden hut, looking up at the top of the mountain, motionless. Even though Yulin sat down beside him carelessly, Jian Nanchun showed no reaction. Yulin followed Jian Nanchun's gaze and understood immediately. At the top of the mountain, there is a thatched house. It was freezing cold around the thatched house. This lingering white light and cold air actually caused a layer of snow-white frost to form on the thatched house in broad daylight. The most amazing thing is that above the thatched house, there is a stream of snow-white air, which follows the rhythm of inhaling and exhaling, forming a snow-white cloud in the sky, like snow and frost, crystal clear, and the light from the outside is reflected in the cloud. Due to the large temperature difference, distorted refraction is visible to the naked eye, and there is a faint rainbow-colored glow, like a bridge or a river, lying across the sky. Yulin sat side by side with Jian Nanchun. Although his next words were suspected of knowingly asking, he still asked. "Senior brother Jian, how are you and senior sister making progress?" "Well." Jian Nanchun finally reacted. With a haggard look on his face, he sighed, "Ask, what is love in this world?" "Yulin, speak in human language." "Difficult. Difficult. Difficult." Jian Nanchun stood up and looked up to the sky and roared. Then he sat down again, startled, shaking his head like a lunatic, with his hair disheveled, sad. 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 Yeah, what Jian Nanchun meant, was just boring. Yulin got the answer she expected, without asking for details, and then patted the dust on her butt. "That means we don't have to go down the mountain, right?" The disheveled Jian Nanchun suddenly turned his head and looked at Yulin. "No, how can I, Jian Nanchun, give up so easily with this difficulty?" With a snap, Jian Nanchun patted Yulin's shoulders with both hands and said in a deep voice, "Junior brother Lin, I think you are right. As the saying goes, where sincerity leads, gold and stone will be opened. Over time, water will penetrate the stone. Senior brother, I believe that as long as year after year, day after day, I, Jian Nanchun, silently guard my junior sister. One day, even if my junior sister's heart is as solid as ice, she will be melted by my tenderness and determination. Then all I can say is go for it." That's right, Jian Nanchun is also a perseverant swordsman. With Yilin's encouragement, he quickly regained his glory, and his face became more discouraged and desolate. Junior brother Lin, the 12th lunar month has arrived, and it is still difficult to go down the mountain. We are going down the mountain. However, it is a little different from what I expected from my senior brother. A little bit. Since you finally took the initiative to take the initiative to come to Discipline Mountain, my master has been waiting for you for a long time. Yilin was stunned. Why does Jian Nanchun's tone sound like he's finally waiting for you to come to your door? Jian Nanchun reluctantly glanced at his junior sister's residence, his eyes as deep as the sea. Finally, Jian Nanchun looked away and waved, and the snow-white oil paper umbrella turned into a sword, carrying the two of them and flying towards the discipline hall. Jian Nanchun seems to have suffered a lot of setbacks these days. Compared with before, he is a little less energetic and a little more stable as a mountain. I don't know how he went to pry the door. Jian Nanchun didn't take the initiative to mention it, and Yilin didn't dare to ask more questions. On the way, the silent Jian Nanchun kindly reminded, for some reasons, my master has criticized you, junior brother. When meeting the master this time, junior brother must not be too arrogant and domineering. I'm afraid that master, he can't help it. Yilin. Soon, the two came to the discipline hall. The discipline hall is also a separate garden, but the layout style is mainly black and white, making it appear solemn and solemn. A quick glance at it will make you feel goosebumps and make you feel uncomfortable all over. Inside the house, Bai Tianxin faced an ancient calligraphy on the wall, which read four words, Ji Un Wu Wu. Yilin seemed to have arrived by chance. Besides Bai Tianxin, there was also a young girl in the house. The girl is thin and wearing the uniform of a registered disciple of the Discipline Mountain. She has short ear-length hair and her back looks particularly energetic. No matter how noble your status is in the secular world, you are like dust and floating clouds in the immortal section. From today on, I will accept you as a registered disciple. I hope you will lose your arrogance and nobility as soon as possible and become a certified disciple, a disciple of the Heavenly Sword sect who pursues the Great Road, seeks immortality, and upholds justice. With that said, Bai Tianxin turned around and threw a named disciple token in front of the woman. Yes. The disciple has met the master. The woman responded with a crisp voice, and immediately bowed down deeply and performed the great ceremony of becoming a disciple. Yilin stood at the door for a while. Is it that troublesome to secretly become a disciple? Isn't it just to get the waist card and leave? While thinking about it, Yilin and Jian Nanchun stepped into the hall together. Following Yilin's movements, the large string of heavy waist badges on his waist made a muffled sound, which was particularly annoying. Bai Tianxin had a cold face and nodded to Jian Nanchun at first. Then when his face turned to Yilin's direction, it suddenly turned black and then turned white. I don't know if it was Yilin's illusion, but he always felt that Bai Tianxin's next words sounded like he was gritting his teeth and suppressing hatred. Humph, Nanchun, you have brought some rare guests here, so that I can make this discipline hall shine. Bai Tianxin was obviously speaking sarcastically, and something was wrong with his whole face. On the other hand, Yilin looked calm and cupped his hands. Master praises me so much that I am ashamed of myself. Disciple Lin Yi has met my master. As long as he is not embarrassed, others will be embarrassed. Bai Tianxin's face turned darker when he heard Yilin's answer. Do you really think I'm praising you? On the ground, the delicate body, which was bowing to the ground as a disciple, trembled slightly. Xiaoman, get up. This is a good senior brother who is here to meet you, a dragon that has never been seen before, and that you may not see once a year. Xiaoman, Xia Xiaoman? Yilin ignored what Bai Tianxin said while suppressing her resentment. Instead, it was the name he muttered that brought back Yilin's memories. Xia Xiaoman also gritted his teeth and stood up. She suddenly thought of her poor hair. Although Xiaoxiaoman had just left the handyman class and had just become a disciple, Xiaoxiaoman's expression when he turned to look at Yilin was exactly the same as Bai Taixin's. They are all gnashing their teeth. Damn Lin Yi. Xiaoxiaoman muttered in a low voice. Yilin squinted her eyes and took a step forward. Don't forget where this is, the discipline hall, a place where sect rules are cleared. What did you call me just now? First come, first served, distinguish seniority, but the door is nailed on the board. Rule. Xiaoxiaoman. Yilin kindly reminded, if you call me wrong, I'm afraid you will be sent back to the handyman class. Xiaoxiaoman lowered his head, his delicate body trembling. He didn't know whether it was fear, hatred, or anger. He whispered, named disciple Xiaoxiaoman, I have met senior brother. The word senior brother was particularly striking, echoing quietly in the hall. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 862. Yeah, be good. That's okay, your hair grows pretty fast. Yilin took a look at the other person's short hair and praised it sincerely. But this sentence sounded provocative to Xiaoxiaoman's ears. My hair is long and my hair is short, what does that have to do with you? You, meow, have stepped on my girl's precious hair before. I will endure. Xiaoxiaoman spent 3 seconds to understand the situation and endured it. After half a year, the two met again, and finally they didn't fight. Besides, Xiaoxiaoman felt miserable. Half a year ago, she knew that Lin Yi possessed special skills inherited from his family and had been doing odd jobs for a whole year. Although his arms were much thicker, he had successfully entered the 9th level of Qi and was only 1 step away from the next great realm. But for some reason, Xiaoxiaoman looked at that hateful face and felt that he couldn't do it. So Xiaoxiaoman gave up knowingly. Next, Bai Taixin started talking about business. Yilin thought it had nothing to do with him at first, but she didn't expect that it had a lot to do with him. Turn out to be. Every year during the 12th lunar month, Chao Rushuan takes the initiative to apply for the purchase, so it's no big deal. Although Chao Rushuan is nominally a disciple of Bai Taixin, it is not a secret within the sect that she is attracted by the supreme leader and is very likely to switch jobs and become the direct disciple of the leader. Since Chao Rushuan is favored by the leader and has a special status, just like Na Lin Yi, she has a little privilege, which is normal. No matter how strict the rules are, there are always loopholes. But something seems different this year. We have to start from the beginning. In the Dacian dynasty, the situation was turbulent, natural and man-made disasters occurred, and the people were in dire straits. But speaking of it, Tianjian sect generally ignores disputes in the secular world. Times change, dynasties rise and fall, this is the rolling wheel of history rolling all the way, and it is also the general trend and unstoppable. Take Nai Shanhe, the master who just passed away, for example. He lived for hundreds of years, but he witnessed the changes of 2 dynasties. The century-old dynasty fell as quickly as a passing cloud. All in all, to summarize the relationship between Tianjian sect and the secular world in one sentence, that is. What does it have to do with me? Worldly disputes cannot reach the level of Tianjian sect. So at what level can the Tianjian sect be alarmed to take action? This is what Bai Taixin will say next. Recently, our sect received a request for help from Fei Yuan from Heian Temple. Bai Taixin said eloquently, during the turmoil of the Dacian dynasty, it is suspected that someone from the demon sect is causing trouble. Once they succeed, it will bring disaster to the people of the world. The implication is that Tianjian sect doesn't care who becomes the emperor in this world, but once someone from the old rival demon sect is mixed in and interferes with it, Tianjian sect will not be able to sit still. Yilin caught a subtle word in Bai Taixin's words, and he asked repeatedly, suspicious. Bai Taixin nodded dryly and did not look down upon Yilin's wit. He continued, Yes, it is suspected. It was an autographed letter from Zen Master Tianxin, the abbot of Ping'an Temple. But Zen Master Tianxin is a sincere person. There is a saying there was no exaggeration in his words. He was not sure that the demon sect was involved in the turmoil in the Qing kingdom, he was just suspicious. To put it bluntly, it is suspicion but no evidence. Jian Nanchun frowned. No wonder Bai Tianxin had been looking sad recently. Because he was busy picking up girls, he didn't ask much. Now that Bai Tianxin mentioned it, Jian Nanchun finally came back to his senses. After thinking about it carefully, he said, "Master, you mean, let us go down the mountain to find out the truth?" Bai Tianxin cast an appreciative look at Jian Nanchun, as if to say, "It's you as expected, you can see this." Then Yilin pointed at herself, and then at the eldest princess Yazioman, who had just grown short ear-length hair. "So, is this the reason why you took the eldest princess out of the handyman class?" But, when Jian Nanchun heard this, he felt bad. When he looked out of the corner of his eye, he saw that the master's face was indeed dark and the crow's feet were twitching, so he secretly stepped on Yilin's feet and coughed twice. "Junior brother, don't talk nonsense. Master has always been selfless. How could he deliberately recruit junior sister Xia to join him because of this matter?" Humph! Bai Tianxin also snorted, without answering directly. "In short, you are going down the mountain and declare to the door that there are too many supplies needed this time, so except for Shuang you will go together, so that you can save a lot trouble." Hearing this, Yilin frowned, looked at Bai Tianxin's solemn expression, and stopped talking. Next, Bai Tianxin briefly talks about the details. Xia Xiaoman was originally the eldest princess of Daqian. When she returned to Qingdu, her logic was reasonable and would not arouse suspicion. And Lin Yi, a nobody, would not attract anyone's attention. The purpose of their trip was clear, which was to collect intelligence. Once they discovered that someone from the demon sect was behind the turmoil in the Qing kingdom, they would immediately notify the master sect and intervene in a timely manner. By that time, the wars caused by the mere change of dynasties in the secular world will rise to the level of a battle between good and evil. Correct. Finally, Bai Tianxin slapped his thigh, as if he had just remembered the matter, and added, "Master, I almost forgot, so the matter is very important. In addition to the four of you, there are also 2 concubines from Spirit Beast Mountain and Tai Mountain on this trip. The disciples will go together. I hope you and other disciples will get along well with each other and don't harm the harmony." 3 days later, the appointed day for the gathering arrived. Yilin, Jian Nanchun, and Xia Xiaoman were guarding the dock early. Xia Xiaoman put on a long goose yellow dress. Since her hair was too short to be combed into a bun, she could only simply tie it into a sharp corner behind her head. She looked like a weak woman when she walked. She hadn't looked at Yilin since she gathered together. Even if she didn't curse him, she was using her actions to express her disdain. Jian Nanchun still wears the usual worldly pretense, white clothes in the breeze, an oil umbrella, and boots that leave no trace when treading water. As for Yilin, it was very simple. She tied up her long hair casually and wore a white coat with a black lining as a scholar's robe. She looked like a weak scholar with no power, but her expression was a bit fierce. Before anyone else arrived, Yilin quietly poked Xia Xiaoman in the back, through a soundproof barrier casually, and said secretly, "Did you bring the seal with you?" When Xia Xiaoman heard this, he immediately held his luggage warily, stepped back 5 steps, and looked at Lin Yi with malicious intentions as if to guard against thieves. "What do you want?" Yilin raised her slender fingers and showed off the Na ring on her finger. "I don't want to do anything. I'm afraid it won't be safe for you to put it in your bag. I'll help you put it in the Na ring to make sure it's foolproof. How about it?" Xia Xiaoman opened his mouth wide. She was so angry that her eyebrows trembled. She huffed for a long time before she suppressed her blush and said, "I don't dare to bother senior brother." "Forget about it." Yilin removed the sound barrier without forcing it. Jian Nanchun didn't pay attention to the two people's little moves at all. He stared at the horizon with hope. Finally, the longed-for figure, like a white rainbow, came from the horizon and landed in front of the three of them. "Junior sister, you are here." Just as Jian Nanchun was about to go up and say something, he took a step back towards Rushuan and said calmly, "Senior brother, respect yourself." Jian Nanchun. Another moment passed. In the direction of Xiandao, two figures came here one after the other. One of them is a tall and elegant girl wearing a Taoist robe. She was riding a bus crane, which was not surprising. After landing, she smiled and nodded at Jian Nanchun and Chao Rushuan respectively, with an implicit smile, disciple of the inner sect of Tai Mountain, Yu Qingying. Another woman wears a more bold style, with light pink gauze and snow-white skin. Her brows are charming and her smile is spring-like. Her mount is not a bus, but a flying green snake. When it fell, the green snake shrank and curled up on the woman's neck, motionless. From a distance, it looked like a snake-shaped ribbon, which added to the woman's beauty. Spirit Beast Mountain, Liqianqian, I have met senior brothers, senior sisters, and junior brothers. Liqianqian, who came from Spirit Beast Mountain, glanced around several people and finally landed on Chao Rushuan. She and Chao Rushuan were in sharp contrast. One is as passionate as fire, and the other is as cold as ice. Standing together, the people around them can't help but feel a strange pressure like two heavens of ice and fire. Yilin thought about the names of several people and roughly ranked their seniority. With Xiaoxiaoman at the bottom, he would naturally not be the one with the lowest seniority. At the very least, he is no longer needed as a handyman in this team. As for the identity of the eldest princess, sorry, Monk Fangwei doesn't care about fame and fortune, he is very open-minded. I never expected that Jian Nanchun was quite senior in the family. The senior single old dog Jian Nanchun is in trouble. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 863. When they came, they were riding Kun beasts. When I left, I was still sitting on the Kun beast. I haven't seen him for half a year, but he still looks like he hasn't grown up. 2 men and 4 women stood on the Kun, blowing the sea breeze and walking through the thick fog, which was particularly pleasant. Yilin, who had been born in 3 lifetimes and had been reborn repeatedly, felt a sense of sadness inexplicably when looking at the vast sea. A year passed like this. So fast. Look, the bald junior sister next door has grown thick hair. Before leaving, for some reason, a group of elders came to see him off. They waved vigorously at Lin Yi from a distance, with sullen faces and moving lips, as if to tell Lin Yi to pay attention to his safety. This situation shocked the whole family and became a popular story. I never expected that Lin Yi would be so popular. Among them, the elder of Zhejian Mountain, Hua Wu, waved his hand very long and hard, the wind and clouds moved, the trees and mountains shook, and he couldn't control his emotions. Finally, then Lin Yi finally left. Seeing the Kun beast go away, several elders sighed in unison and decided to celebrate together tonight to celebrate the restoration of peace in Tianjian sect. Yilin blew the sea breeze for a while and felt a little bored while riding in the boat, so he took the initiative to go to the elder to receive him. Because it would be a bit arrogant to hang a bunch of tags on your waist while traveling, Yilin had already strung all the tags into a chain in advance and put them into the storage space. In front of Elder Ji Ying, he took out the string of waist badges and winked at Elder Ji Yin, who looked indifferent. Elder Ji Yin's delicate skin had slightly wrinkles that were difficult to detect with the naked eye. After a while, he took out a named disciple token and threw it to Yilin with a sigh. "Master, I am happy to accept Lin Yi's thanks." Yilin bowed his hand and regarded it as a bow. In front of others, he happily linked the newly acquired registered disciple badge with other people's badges. Well, I collected another piece. I don't know if the female leader I have never met has a similar reputation. If not, then the progress of collecting the waist badges of his registered disciples in Tianjian sect has reached 100%, which is a perfect integration. On the Kun beast, Xia Xiaoman was immediately dumbfounded. Ah, this? Is it so easy to be a registered disciple? Or are you particularly stupid? She worked so hard to get out of the handyman class. The newcomers Yu Qingying and Li Qianqian are also senior inner disciples of their respective sections, but firstly, Lin Yi Shenlong was invisible and elusive, secondly, their level had already exceeded the scope of daily lectures and entered the stage of self-understanding. They were usually similar to Chao Rushuan, practicing behind closed doors and rarely coming out. Rock. Regarding Lin Yi's deeds, they usually only hear rumors but never see anyone. I finally learned a lot today. Are you junior brother Lin Yi? Li Qianqian had the spirit snake wrapped around her neck. She took a few steps closer curiously and whispered, "It doesn't look special." Yu Qingying from Tai Mountain on the side, the corner of her mouth was slightly raised, half smile but not a smile. Junior sister Li, as the saying goes, a person cannot be judged by his appearance. Haha, that's right. Hey, junior brother Lin, senior sister is very optimistic about you. Please give me some advice in the future. The rules of the sect stipulate that loud noises are prohibited on the Kun beast, so Li Qianqian didn't say much. After showing her goodwill to Yilin with a smile, she retreated to a corner on the Kun beast's back, closed her eyes and rested, and said no more. Jian Nanchun watched Yilin's move to ask for a waist card from beginning to end, his eyes twitched, and he secretly thought it was embarrassing. But if you think about it carefully, you will find that Lin Yi is the registered disciple of all the elders. After much calculation, in the end, he still doesn't know whose disciple he lost, and it seems that he lost his disciple to everyone. Thinking about it this way, it seems that there is nothing to worry about. All the same, all the same. Next, the whole journey was silent. Yilin put away the string of waist badges with satisfaction and thought about what might happen next. The whole thing is weird. Half an hour later, Kun Beast carried several people through the thick fog and left the fairy mountain. They set foot on the fertile and moist soil of Dongsheng Shenzhou again. After leading the elders to leave, Yilin walked up to Jian Nanchun and asked, "Brother Jian, there is something I don't understand." "Junior brother, please tell me." Jian Nanchun was always polite to Yilin. He glanced at Rushuan from time to time, but he didn't dare to look too much because the dog was so sneaky. When Yilin asked, he was particularly enthusiastic, for fear of neglecting Yilin. Ping'an Temple is supposed to be the Buddhist branch among the three middle sections. How could it ask our Tianjian sect for help? Oh, it turns out that junior brother doesn't know. Jian Nanchun suddenly realized that this was not a secret, it was just that Yilin didn't know about it, so he immediately replied, "Let's not mention that Yanfuzhou is far away from Nanzan Buzhu, separated by the vast ocean. Let's say that Yanfuzhou was devoted to worshipping the Buddha and paid no attention to the disputes in the world." Li Qianqian heard the conversation between the two. She gently fiddled with the tail of the snake around her neck with her small hands and said casually, "Junior brother Lin, you don't know something. Those monks are not so easy to deal with." Jian Nanchun coughed twice. "Junior sister Li, there are some things you should not say nonsense." "Okay, senior brother, let's keep it tacitly agreed." Li Qianqian pouted, averted her gaze, and remained silent after being prompted by senior brother Jian. "So, where do we go next?" Jian Nanchun had the highest seniority and the oldest qualifications among this group of people. He took advantage of the situation and became the leader. No one had any objections. But the main purpose of this trip was to investigate the inside story of the turmoil in the Dacian dynasty. Although Xiaoxiaoman was the most junior and the lowest senior, she was the eldest princess of Daqian. It was not surprising that Jian Nanchun asked her for her opinion. Xiaoxiaoman immediately gritted his teeth, with a trace of hatred in his eyes. It must be that witch temple. Jian Nanchun suddenly stopped feeling sleepy and asked, which witch? The new queen who kidnapped my brother and interfered with the government's affairs. Xiaoxiaoman immediately told all the deeds of the new queen. Not to mention the well-known fact that after the death of the late emperor, the new queen verbally said that the young emperor was too young, indecisive, and assisted the government behind the curtain. Xiaoxiaoman said that the new queen was originally an unknown concubine who came from the common people and had no support behind her. But for some reason, when Emperor Xiaoyuan entered middle age, he gradually became fascinated by the young and beautiful new concubine. Finally, he became seriously ill and died inexplicably. In the name of the young emperor, she used the excuse that the national treasury was empty to raise tax rates in various places, and promulgated a series of inhumane criminal laws, ranging from confiscation of homes to the most severe, including the execution of all 9 tribes, and some even killed the dogs and cats kept in the home. Don't let it go. In the end, there were complaints from all over the country, bandits were raging, and the people were in dire straits. The human race is weak, and demons are naturally rampant. It makes no sense to take advantage of your illness and kill you. From Xiaoxiaoman's perspective, the worldview was explained very clearly, but to Jian Nanchun's ears, he couldn't hear anything special. Isn't this normal? Otherwise, how could dynasties change? What he actually wanted to ask was whether the new queen showed any unusual methods, such as cruel spells. But when Xiaoxiaoman left Qingdu, she was still an ordinary princess. Even if the new queen was really a member of the demon sect and used some evil magic, she would not be able to see anything weird. But no matter what, since Xiaoxiaoman feels that the new queen is weird, Jian Nanchun will not ignore it. In addition, they are all like blind flies at the moment and lack clues. It is better to go to Qingdu to check the new queen first, and maybe they can easily complete the task. Jian Nanchun was unhurried and calm. The master also said this before leaving. Once it is discovered that someone from the demon sect, or even the demon Luo temple, who is also a member of the upper 3 sects, is violating the peace treaty and jumping around in the world, the elders in the sword sect will have every reason to take action. When the time comes, the group fight will still be a one-on-one fight. It's not Jian Nanchun's final say. Of course, Jian Nanchun hoped from the bottom of his heart that this matter had nothing to do with the demon sect. If the demon sect is really involved, things won't be that simple. Thinking about the worst, it is very likely to turn into a vigorous battle between good and evil, and the number of casualties will not be comparable to that of a mere dynasty change. When Jian Nanchun was preparing to greet a few people to go to Qingdu, Yu Qingying, who came from Tai Mountain, bowed to Jianese Chun Yingying. But she looked at Chao Rushuan, who was silent along the way. Senior brother Jian, junior sister has something to say, I don't know whether to say it or not. Junior sister Yu, it's okay to say so. Since the master asked me to go out and investigate the matter. How about we split up? Split up? Sister Yu's suggestion, my sister also agrees. Before Jian Nanchun could speak, Li Qianqian took the initiative to call out the spirit snake. The spirit snake's slender body suddenly expanded to a length of more than 10 meters and rolled up on the ground, like a small hill. Li Qianqian was riding on the spirit snake, her eyes were charming and swaying, as if she could squeeze out water, but when she looked at Chao Rushuan, her eyes were more provocative. We are both inner disciples. In the past, there was no distinction between superiors within the sect, so why not take advantage of this and let us compete to see who can investigate the mastermind first? Wouldn't it be more interesting? Junior sister is right. Yu Qingying is good at deducing hexagrams. She calculated with her fingers for a moment, and then smiled slightly. Then let's say goodbye here. Jian Nanchun opened his mouth wide. He watched helplessly as Yu Qingying and Li Qianqian disobeyed the command and flew away quickly, leaving only a faint wisp of feminine fragrance in place. Ouch, why are they all running away? Chao Rushuan stood aside, flicking his sword finger, and the flying sword appeared from the sword box behind him. Yilin hurriedly stepped forward and smiled. I see that senior sister looks confident and seems to be planning to investigate on her own, right? Chao Rushuan frowned, looked down at the young man, and said nothing. This is the mother and mother nail specially made by junior brother. There will be no loss of communication in the sky and on the earth. It may be comparable to fiber optic tracking and snooping. It is called the mother nail for short. No matter how far away it is, as long as senior sister breaks one of them, there will be a corresponding reaction here. Don't worry, senior sister, this is just a little trick, there is nothing special other than that. The three of us are from the same sect, so don't lose contact. Chao Rushuan saw that the young man looked innocent and had no doubts, so he accepted it silently. In that case, thank you, junior brother Lin. Bye-bye, senior sister. Yulin held Jian Nanchun down and said goodbye to Chao Rushuan happily. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 864. Gone. 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 Jian Nanchun stared blankly at the back of Chao Rushuan Yujian who was leaving. He still hadn't come back to his senses until the light and shadow turned into a small dot on the horizon. Come on, stop looking. Yilin vigorously waved her palms in front of Jian Nanchun. If you really want to leave, you won't be able to stay even if you want to. My junior sister. Jian Nanchun hammered his chest hard, his brows furrowed into the character Chuan. Judging from his sad posture, it didn't look like he was pretending, but he was really sad. Yilin glanced at Xia Xiaoman's luggage from time to time, and the habit ingrained in his soul made him ready to make a move. But he was embarrassed to bully others, so he could only put down the idea of snatching the human emperor's seal for the time being, and smiled at Jian Nanchun. I now understand why it is said that love makes people blind. Bah, Yilin said bluntly. Jian Nanchun subconsciously wanted to refute, but he didn't know how to refute. Yilin, senior sister Chao Rushuan doesn't see anything special, but senior brother Jian, have you noticed that Li Qianqian and Yu Qingying's attitude towards senior sister Chao Rushuan is hidden hostility? Hidden hostility. When Jian Nanchun was reminded like this, his whole body was excited, and a bright light flashed in his eyes. He became serious and pushed himself to the top. Is it because, I understand, I see, I understand. Jian Nanchun held his chin and pondered for a moment, looking like he suddenly understood. Yi Lingsu stared. Do you know that the Riddler always ends up dying a bad death? Speak well. Ahem, Jian Nanchun understood Yi Lin's meaning. Junior brother Lin, you don't know this. Speaking of which, this is still an old thing. It is said that when the supreme leader was selecting candidates for his successor in the sect, except for Yu Shuang in addition to senior sister Chu Jing from Wenjian Mountain, Yu Qingying from Taai Mountain, and Li Qianqian from Spirit Beast Mountain all have very high voices. Among them, Chu Jing from Wenjian Mountain is even more talented than junior sister Chao Rushuan, and has a short entry level. In just 5 years, he formed a golden elixir and became a golden elixir monk, unrivaled among his peers. Chu Jing, Yi Lin frowned, thinking that he was quite familiar with him in Wenjian Mountain. Boss Nai had a sullen face all day long, but he never mentioned that he had such a disciple. 5 years to form a golden elixir? What concept? Yi Lin didn't quite understand. So he asked, where are you, senior brother? How long does it take to form an elixir? 6 years. I'm ashamed to say it, senior brother, I spent a lot of money, ahem, wait a minute, junior brother Lin, why do you ask this? It's not important, Jian Nanchun almost let it slip, his face changed slightly, and he felt a little embarrassed. But he quickly changed the subject, the point is not here. The point is that Chu Jing is dead. Dead, Yi Lin was stunned, how did you die? Jian Nanchun shook his head, no one knows. It is said that even the head of the sect was alarmed by this incident and went out to investigate, but in the end no results were found. The elder of Tai Mountain, who spent his lifespan and blood essence, defied the heaven seeing, after spying on the secrets of heaven, came to a conclusion after his qi and blood were reversed and he vomited 10 mouthfuls of his blood. Yi Lin's curiosity was aroused, what conclusion? Jian Nanchun chuckled, raised a finger mysteriously, and pretended to wave the finger for a long time before he said leisurely, secret. The corners of Yi Lin's eyes twitched, and he raised the mother nail in the mother nail and prepared to break it in front of Jian Nanchun. I think this is a magic weapon that can track the whereabouts of senior sister Chao Rushuan, so I don't mind it. No. Junior brother Lin, show mercy, Jian Nanchun pounced on Yi Lin and held down Yi Lin's hand that was about to annihilate her relatives. He didn't dare to pretend anymore and explained with a mournful face, it's not that senior brother keeps secrets from junior brother. Ah. But this matter, from that day on, became a secret. Get out of here, Yi Lin kicked away the sword man who was leaning on him and patted the dust on his body, if you had said this earlier, it would have been fine. Keep talking. Jian Nanchun's face changed faster than he could turn the page of a book. After a blink of an eye, his face remained as usual and he continued, so, since Chu Jing's death, junior sister Chao Rushuan has become the most popular person for the head's personal succession. In other words, this matter hasn't been completely settled yet. It seems that you understand, junior brother Jian Nanchun nodded helplessly, senior brother, I didn't think much about this before. But after junior brother Lin reminded me, senior brother, I thought about it again, and I realized that this matter is just a lead-in, and it is very possible. The supreme leader also arranged for junior sister Chao Rushuan, Li Qianqian, and Yu Qingying to jointly investigate the matter, perhaps because, from the performance of this matter, the supreme leader's direct disciples were truly selected. No wonder the eyes of the three women looking at each other were full of gunpowder. It turns out that there is competition for jobs. Yi Lin understood. Xia Xiaoman was standing aside, watching the whole conversation between the two senior brothers and was dumbfounded. Wait, isn't Lin Yuna just a registered disciple? How could he have a fierce fight with Jian Nanchun, an elite among the inner disciples? If you look at it in the eyes of people who don't understand, let alone a senior brother, if you say you have an affair, some people will probably believe it, right? Jian Nanchun tentatively pointed to the mother-in-law nail on Yi Lin's hand, junior brother, this magic weapon. I'll keep it for now and see how you behave. Yi Lin calmly stuffed the nails into the storage space and looked at Xia Xiaoman with a smile, then you go back to Qingdu first, I have other important matters. When Xia Xiaoman heard this, he became anxious, what? You, ahem, senior brother, won't you go back to Qingdu with me? Yeah, there's no rush. Why are you so anxious? You've been at Tianjianmen for a year. Are you anxious for just 1 or 2 days? But you. Xia Xiaoman was so anxious that he almost burst into tears. But before she could say anything to dissuade her, Jian Nanchun looked at Yi Lin curiously and asked, what are your plans, junior brother? It's rare to go down the mountain, so of course I want to go home. As he spoke, Yi Lin ignored the surprised and confused expressions of the two of them, and casually took out a board from the storage space that he had made in a hurry. The shape of the board is similar to that of a skateboard. Just an oval wooden board. There are 4 tubular blowholes on the bottom and back of the board. On both sides of the board, Too many wings are uniquely installed, like the wings of a little angel. Due to the limitations of their times, Jian Nanchun and Xiaoxiaoman did not have enough vision to see the clues. If it were Molly here and seeing Yilin's taste, she would probably be able to spit out all the overnight coffee. Aren't these just large little angel wings? Let's go. The young man was full of energy and stepped on the jet skateboard. As the whistling spiritual energy surged from the 4 blowholes, he let out a roar like a wild beast. The board took the young man into the sky and went all the way south. In the end, Xiaoxiaoman and Jian Nanchun followed. There was no way, because Yilin had grasped Jian Nanchun's weak point, and he would definitely follow him. Xiaoxiaoman didn't dare to go back to Qingdu alone, so he had no choice but to follow. Xiaoxiaoman sat on Jian Nanchun's flying sword, feeling uneasy in the air. The two of them laughed heartily as they looked at Lin Yi in the sky, like a young boy with a childlike innocence, flying on a strange flying board, as if he was showing off his skills, flying in various spiral trajectories. Happy. They fly low, passing through villages and towns. Fortunately, Jian Nanchun was a serious flying sword, and passers-by thought he was awesome but not surprised. But Lin Yi's skateboard made the people who didn't know why it looked so happy and said it was very enjoyable. In later generations, legends about the skateboarding sword fairy occasionally spread in some villages. Yilin is eager to return home. Fly extremely fast. It took them 3 days to travel from north to south, spanning half of the Dongsheng Divine Continent, and arrived at the Barren Mountains in the south. One of the mountains is called Qingnu Mountain. When several people passed by Qingnu Mountain, Jian Nanchun glanced down and raised his eyebrows. There is a demonic aura. Yilin waved her hand. Ah, Qingnu Mountain, that's okay. I covered that tigress monster. Jian Nanchun, mother. Yilin is not what she used to be. Of course, in the eyes of others, the present is different. Now Yilin has adopted the identity of a monk somehow, and all kinds of abilities are explained in terms of a monk, without any sense of violation. No matter how outrageous it is, some people will believe it. Yilin landed at the entrance of the village, put away her skateboard, and walked into the village. As soon as he entered the village, there was a hoarse voice, faintly visible, wafting out of the village. Legend has it that a long time ago, there was still chaos between heaven and earth. There was no sky, no earth, no sun, moon, stars, no insects, fish, birds, or beasts, no. Wow! A group of children surrounded the uncle, exclaiming and excited about the new story they had never heard before. Uncle Niu's voice made Yilin feel nostalgic. He approached step by step and picked up the story as he walked. Then one day, a woman appeared. She tore open the sky with one hand and crushed the ground with one foot. The sky was divided into night and day, and the ground was divided into Dongshen Shenzhou, Nanzan Buzhu, Zini Yuhezhu, and Beijulu. Jo. This person will be known as the Kiju Empress in the future. Uncle Niu turned his head suddenly, but pulled his neck, and screamed in pain. He stared at the spoiler with wide eyes, surprised and happy. Lin Yi. Why are you back? Yeah, I'm back. Yilin nodded and smiled. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 865. Daqian Dynasty. Jishan Calendar, 13th year, 12th lunar month, winter. Lin Yi returned to Qingnu village. The whole village celebrates together. The whole village, young and old, was welcomed by the whole village. Lin Yi is back. Which Lin Yi? That Lin Yi from Carpenter Lin's house. Didn't he go out of the village to wander the world with the Wang family's little tiger? Hey, you didn't know that that boy from the Lin family has a future? He became a monk. What? Monk? Where are you on duty? What's the job? He's a monk. The kind that flies around in the sky? He's alive. Really or not? I'll go take a look too. See how he flies. I heard that that boy from the Lin family has a promising career. He even brought a little girl back with him. That little girl looks so unique. It's just that her butt is a little small. I wonder if she can give birth well. Look at those breasts, the kid will be hungry in the future. What are you afraid of? Monks can do magic. Maybe Lin Yi, if he does magic, will make the little girl's breasts expand as much as she wants. After Yi Lin returned to the village, within half a day, the outside of the Lin family's house was crowded with people, 10 circles inside and 10 circles outside. Many people stretched their necks and peered through the paper windows, trying to see what the legendary immortal and the future wife of the Lin family looked like. Inside the Lin family house. I've been crying here for a while. Lao Lin and his wife hugged Lin Yi and cried bitterly for a long time. Anyway, with the door closed, the crying could not be heard, so it was a rare indulgence for them. Son. Mother Lin touched Lin Yi's hair and wiped her tears with a crumpled coarse cloth. You have lost weight. No way, Yi Lin pinched the flesh on her arm confidently, I'm fat. Aside. While Lin's mother doted on Lin Yi and expressed her true love, Lin's father, with swollen eyes, brought a basin of water, wiped the 2 ancestral handmade benches up and down, left and right, and greeted the guests. Hey, this Sir Immortal, please sit down. Please sit down. And this, ahem, son, why don't you introduce me to daddy? The enthusiasm of the Lin family's parents made Jian and Xia Xiaoman at a loss. Especially Jian. He looked at the bench and didn't want to do it. If you sit down, wouldn't it ruin your immortal status? This bench is short and small. No matter what posture I use to sit, I feel uncomfortable. This is my senior brother, Jian. As for this, Xia Xiaoman, the new junior sister has no status, so don't pay attention to her. Xia Xiaoman didn't really want to sit down at first. This stool looks so shabby. But Yi Lin smiled kindly, patted the 2 stools respectively, and said, you guys sit down, you're welcome. Jian Nanchun and Xia Xiaoman immediately sat firm. After being away for half a year, Yi Lin talked about interesting things happening inside the house. The Lin family's parents listened carefully and laughed happily from time to time. Yi Lin talked from this mountain to that mountain. Before I knew it, it was getting dark. Ouch, look at my brain, I forgot to cook. Father Lin suddenly slapped his head and said in annoyance. Yi Lin didn't expect time to fly by so fast. It's evening all of a sudden. Or should I say that his eloquence has improved and made people addicted to it? In fact, what Yi Lin couldn't understand was that no matter what Yi Lin said, even if she told embarrassing jokes, both her parents would laugh happily. The point is not what Lin Yi said, but that it is rare for Lin Yi to go home and sit at home, chatting about his own affairs. For ordinary father and mother Lin, this is enough. They chatted all afternoon, and the people outside also squatted all afternoon. When they reopened the door, the couple from the Wang family next door broke in and asked Wang Xiaohu about it. They couldn't wait for a long time. Lin Yi and Xiaohu obviously left the village together, so why was Lin Yi the only one back? Okay, let's eat together. Let's talk at the dinner table. Yi Lin smiled and comforted the 2 old men of the Wang family, rolled up her sleeves, and quickly escaped to the village fish pond, caught a few live fish, and went to the field to pick a few kilograms of wild vegetables. As a sole cook, Yi Lin does not have high requirements for ingredients and is very casual. She simply adds some seasonings and a pot of boiled fish with full color, aroma, and taste is ready. At the dinner table, the 2 old men of the Wang family, who had never been tempered by this kind of soul food, almost finished the soup before finally remembering their original purpose. Lin Yi, why didn't my little tiger come back with you? Lao Wang used a piece of dry straw to skillfully pick at the gap between his yellow teeth and asked with a worried look on his face. Lao Wang's question made Yi Lin worried. As we all know, Lao Wang is looking forward to continuing the family lineage of Wang Xiahua, who has been passed down for several generations. But if it was mentioned that Wang Xiahua was abducted by Ping'an Temple and became a monk, wouldn't old Wang flip the table on the spot and get angry with him? He doesn't understand that there is a bright future for cultivating Buddhism in Heian Temple. Yilin glanced at Xia Xiaoman, who was drinking tea and gargling beside her, and said, Wang Xiahua is now on an errand in Qingdu. He was recruited by the eldest princess herself. Puff. Xia Xiaoman squirted out a mouthful of hot tea. When Mother Lin saw it, she quickly wiped it off and asked whether her future daughter-in-law was choked and uncomfortable. When the two Lao Wangs heard this, their blood pressure soared with joy, and they called for a big banquet the next day, and the whole village would celebrate. I'm on an errand in the city. It was Princess Daqian who recruited her personally. This person wanted to honor our ancestors. Cow wow cow wow. The two families talked all night long. It wasn't until the moon rose above the branches that the two old Wang family members reluctantly left the Lin family. At night, Yilin stood on the roof, looking up at Len Yu. Jian Nanchun didn't know when he fell from the air and prepared to stand next to Yilin. Don't come down, this roof can't bear the weight of two people. Jian Nanchun had just landed halfway down Geo, frozen in mid-air, very embarrassed. In the end, Jian Nanchun had no choice but to let the flying sword float next door. He sat on it, which hurt his butt a little. The two were silent for a moment. Jian Nanchun finally couldn't bear it any longer and said, Did you use the calming curse on the whole village? Yilin grinned, Yes, let them have a good sleep, otherwise, they will be noisy for forever. Jian Nanchun always felt that what Yilin did was against the practices of the monks of the Tianjian sect, but he did not say anything out loud, and instead asked, Junior brother Lin, have you noticed that there is a faint evil spirit permeating the village, and there seems to be a demon here? Didn't I tell you earlier? I covered this monster. After saying that, Yilin looked somewhere and said softly, Come out. As soon as Yilin finished speaking, a kitten with snow-white hair that shone in the moonlight gave a meow and then cautiously swept out from the treetops, nimbly climbed up to the roof and came to Yilin's side. There is a word on the white kitten's forehead, and its bright vertical pupils sometimes fall on Yilin, sometimes on Jian Nanchun who is flying on the sword beside him, full of vigilance. Don't worry, he is my senior brother, we agreed, you are my protector. Yilin smiled. Thank you to the immortal. Mao Mao opened his mouth and came out by Chuchu's pitiful young woman's voice, I didn't expect that the immortal's cultivation has improved a lot after half a year. When Yilin heard this, she was angry and funny. Bai Chuchu's desire to survive is a bit strong. Can't you tell whether he is diligent in his cultivation or not? Don't I still know in my heart? Therefore, Yilin did not comment on the flattery and just asked the reason why Bai Chuchu appeared here. Didn't you stay well in Qingnu Mountain? Why did you become like this and squat in the village? Isn't the village not peaceful? Bai Chuchu did not show her original shape. She finally breathed a sigh of relief after discovering that Jian Nanchun really did what Yilin said and would not draw the sword easily. I saw her in the posture of a kitten, with her tail raised, her butt raised, her paws stretched forward and lying on the roof. She said I am very obedient and explained the reason. The immortal doesn't know something. Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Yishueshi. Chapter 866. Nonsense. If you don't tell me, can I know? Yilin rolled her eyes at Bai Chuchu's nonsense opening remarks. But seeing that the other party's posture was so submissive, Yilin did not interrupt and listened quietly. After a while, Yilin roughly understood the reason. The cause was King Zhenyi's. Qingnu village is located in Jinping province, one of the 13 provinces under the jurisdiction of Zhenyi's king. In the past 6 months, the king of Zhenyi's has imposed excessive levies and expropriations, forcing people ranging from 12 to 45 to serve in corvées and must join the army. In terms of taxes, the king of Genies ignored the previous rule of levying taxes once a year. In just 6 months, he used various names to impose excessive taxes, which made the already poor people even worse, and their families were ruined. But the king of Genies ignored this, and many people were displaced, sold their land, and lost their income, so they had no choice but to join the banditry industry. It just so happens that this industry is so popular this year that I don't have to worry about no one joining the industry. There were more bandits, and the world was naturally more chaotic. Soon after Yilin left, the area near Qingyu Mountain began to feel uneasy again. Many wild villages have been set up. Many people claim to be the king of bandits, king of Qingfeng, king of Black Mountain, king of bandits, and so on. They occupy the top of the mountain and are arrogant and domineering, plundering the merchants. Even robbed homes, committing all kinds of evil. Bai Chuchu had been staying peacefully in Qingyu Mountain, but one day, she found that the gang of bandits were so hungry that they went to Qingyu Mountain to dig wild vegetables. Then she realized something was wrong and went down the mountain to take a look. She wandered around Qingyu village for a while and killed many bandits. Of course, she also did a good job in the aftermath. She had already met many unintelligent beasts in the mountains, and she fed them the flesh and blood of these bandits. Apart from a pool of blood and mess, there was no body left at the incident site. Therefore, the people in Qingyu village are only vaguely aware that the world is not peaceful, but they are peaceful for the time being. Qingyu village is located in a remote area, and the county seat they belong to is Yuchun. In the past, the tax soldiers who came to the village to collect tax grains were all from Yuchun and were familiar with the older generation of the village. Therefore, Genies King's money-making efforts have not affected Xiaoqingyu village for the time being. Recruit troops, collect wealth, and collect grain. Yilin gently stroked the cat's head and fell into deep thought. Jian Nanchun on the side raised his eyebrows. This king of Genies is afraid that he will rebel. Yilin opened her eyes. Don't hold back when speaking. Be sure. He is going to rebel. Jian Nanchun nodded. If I remember correctly, King Genies was the brother of Emperor Xiaoyuan of the previous generation. After Emperor Xiaoyuan came to power, he was also named Prince Nan. But later, Prince Nan was sent to the deserted south. He became the King of Genies. In terms of official rank, the King of Genies is a local prince, several levels higher than the mere King of Nan. Ascending and descending secretly, no matter where the emperor is, they all like to play this trick. The ancients said, how can the bed allow others to sleep soundly? This king of Genies was qualified to seize the emperor's position back then. Emperor Xiaoyuan could leaving him in Qingdu would be damning, Yilin said. So, if he really wants to rebel, it must be justified and convincing. Jian Nanchun didn't have much idea about this. A monk can live for hundreds of years, and after cultivating the golden elixir, he can live for 200 years. The mere change of dynasties is nothing. Yilin also thought it was normal from a melon-eating perspective. So when Chu Xiaoxiaoman said she was going to join King Genies, Yilin really laughed at her from the bottom of her heart. How could such a foolish idea come from the mind of a princess? Laughing to death. Yilin only sighed that Xiaoxiaoman was born in an emperor's family, but it was a pity that her father died early and did not have time to teach her the emperor's skills. Here, try this. After Yilin understood the cause and effect, she was grateful to Bai Chuchu for protecting Qingyu village secretly, so she took out Xiaoking's favorite Beiwa dumpling and stuffed it into the cat's mouth. Bai Chuchu was unwilling to do so at first, but Yilin stuffed the baby too quickly. A minute later, Bai Chuchu said he wanted more. She rolled around coquettishly in front of Yilin. In the end, Bai Chuchu ate a whole 5, patted her bulging belly, and lay on her back, feeling very comfortable. Jian Nanchun watched Yilin's beast-taming process. His heart was shaken and his expression was turbulent. Can the elder of beast taming mountain teach this beast taming technique? Your method is not quite right. Jian Nanchun cursed secretly, his eyes wandering. After Yilin fed the cat, he patted his butt and sat up. He looked at Jian Nanchun and said with a smile, "Brother Jian, I wonder if you can open one eye or close one tonight." Jian Nanchun was stunned when he heard this, and was a little confused as to what Yilin meant by the statement. "Junior brother, why did you say this?" "To put it simply, you can just pretend you didn't see what I did tonight." With that said, Yilin floated into the night sky and hung in the center of Qingyu village, and the Thousand Machines banner presented by Chen Bei appeared in her hand. Qingji banner is a mass-produced high-grade magical weapon produced by Zhejian Mountain. It is mainly exported to Fangyuan Mountain. Almost every disciple of Fangyuan Mountain has one hand. Jian Nanchun took a look at the magic weapon Yilin used to set up the formation, and vaguely understood what Yilin wanted to do. But just when he was about to express his opinion, Yilin suddenly threw over the mother and double nail used to track Chao Rushuan. "Junior brother, senior brother is very sleepy. Let's take a rest. See you tomorrow." Jian Nanchun immediately put away his nails and dodged. Yilin smiled slightly, and after injecting spiritual energy into the Thousand Manifestations banner, the Thousand Manifestations banner spread out, creating 64 clones. Spirit Gathering Array. Prayer Array. Anti-Evil Array. Add another early childbirth formation. It's almost done. The universe shifts and the 5 elements change. Rumble. As Yilin activated the formation flag, a small whirlpool seemed to be formed here, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathered towards Qingyu village. The ground was shaking. Because Yilin cast a calm spell on the whole village in advance, they would not wake up due to slight shocks. It's even possible that they can find unexpected gains in their dreams. The ground of each house was not solid at all. Under the urging of Yilin's formation, the house moved its position to some extent. Yilin shook her hands and moved a tree here, planted a flower there, buried a few spiritual stones here, and set up some traps there. It took about half an hour for Yilin to finally complete the transformation of the village. In fact, when the villagers wake up the next day, even if the houses are moved a little, they won't feel too outrageous. Each house moves just a few centimeters and turns an angle. Who can detect it? It's probably the direction when the sun rises and sets, and the east shines and the west slants, so it's just a bit biased. Far away. Jian Nanchun had a complicated expression on his face as he watched Yilin act arbitrarily in mid-air, changing the world. He was not amazed at his junior brother's attainments in formations. Jian Nanchun was amazed that this approach was a thankless one in the circle of monks. Qi practitioners practice and pay attention to fate and comply with destiny. Everyone has his own destiny. Every drink and peck has its own destiny. Qi refining practitioners' pursuit of immortality is an act that defies heaven. Like Yilin, using formation techniques to forcibly change the spiritual energy of a village, even affecting the average lifespan of the village residents. This is undoubtedly a struggle with heaven. It goes against the law. To put it harshly, it is going against nature. But this kind of go against the will of heaven behavior is not so outrageous that he will be immediately struck by lightning. But monks all believe in fate. If you do this kind of thing too much, your lifespan will be shortened and you will be unlucky. You said that monks go against heaven, just for themselves. It was for his biological parents, and since Jian Nanchun was born as a human being, he could understand. But Yilin went to such great lengths to forcefully use formation techniques to enhance the spiritual heritage of a village that Jian Nanchun could understand, but couldn't accept. Jian Nanchun gently rubbed the mother-in-law nail in his hand, sighed softly, and then disappeared into the darkness. The next day, Yilin killed all night and returned to the village through the morning fog. As soon as Jian Nanchun met Yilin, he smelled the strong smell of blood on her body. He frowned and vaguely guessed what Yi Lin did when he left the village after setting up the formation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xuexi. Chapter 867. The morning light has just risen. Father Lin is going to the fields to fertilize. Lin Yi said that if the barren soil takes time to moisten and fertilize during the winter, it will be possible to loosen the soil and have a good harvest next spring. When he woke up, Father Lin felt something was wrong for some reason. It wasn't something that was bad, but in the past, when he got up in the morning, he always felt sore in the back, weak, powerless, palpitation, chest tightness, and weak. But today, it was as if I had taken some great medicine. My waist was no longer sore, I was out of breath, and I could run 3 miles in one breath. I felt very energetic. People feel refreshed when happy events happen. Father Lin's eyes drifted to the little girl from time to time. When he woke up early in the morning, Xia Xiaoman didn't know if he was used to working hard in the handyman class, so he insisted on going to the fields with Lin's father. The good Princess Daqian was actually trained to be like this. Everyone in Tianjian sect is responsible. But Xia Xiaoman didn't feel awkward at all. He skillfully rolled up his sleeves and trouser legs, and walked in the shallow water channel with his bare white feet. Xiaoman. Father Lin called Xia Xiaoman's name eagerly. Uncle, tell me. Xia Xiaoman wiped the sweat from his forehead and smiled. Baby, how old are you this year? Just past 16. 16 is good. 16 is wonderful. Father Lin slapped his thigh, but he forgot that his hands were covered in mud. In his excitement, he slapped a few muddy palms on his trouser legs. Xia Xiaoman. As the saying goes, a female junior. But before Father Lin finished speaking, Mother Lin next to her saw Father Lin start talking, and she was about to scare away the daughter-in-law who was about to get him. Without saying a word, she picked up the water ladle and banged it from a distance of more than 10 meters. It hit Father Lin precisely on the back of the head. Ouch! Father Lin covered the back of his head in pain. Why is this woman so energetic today? Moreover, he has lived with Mother Lin for decades. Doesn't he know whether Mother Lin's eyes are good or not? I can't always see it accurately on weekdays, so why am I so sure today? Look at your foul mouth. You don't even have a word to say. What are you talking about? Hey, what I said makes sense, makes sense, makes sense. Father Lin suddenly did not dare to say anything and concentrated on his work. Xia Xiaoman was confused. But she didn't think much about it. Her attention was completely attracted by this semi-automatic irrigation system. Uncle, Aunt, let me ask casually, who dug this half-dozen irrigation you are talking about? When the two Lins heard this, they felt amused. They wiped their hands on their pants, came up to each other, and said mysteriously, Miss Xia, you don't know something about this. This thing was tinkered with by my kid Miles. Ah. My surname is Lin, ahem, was it created by my senior brother? Yes, my Lin Yi, I dare not say anything else, but he has a very good mind. He not only taught the village how to use this semi-automatic irrigation system, but also taught us living water fish farming and fermented organic fertilizer. It's all Lin Yi's idea. Otherwise, many people in our Qingyu village would have starved to death. Lin's mother was afraid that her child would not be able to get married, so she began to talk about Lin Yi's glorious deeds. Ever since he was born, he has neither cried nor fussed, refused to nurse, was eccentric and nagging, until he was 12 years old. Xia Xiaoman was not interested at first. Lin Yi, who is interested in him? However, the two Lins loved their son so much that they made Lin Yi's deeds more and more miraculous, just like the reincarnation of a saint. Gradually, Xia Xiaoman became fascinated by the music. He loosened the soil and listened. Unknowingly, the sun rose high and the mist dispersed. The early cold was harsh, but the warmth here could not be eliminated. The other side. Yilin had just finished washing up, freed from blood and sin, and walked out of the village feeling refreshed. She was soon surrounded by a group of young and beautiful girls, whose beauty could not be concealed in coarse linen clothes. They all asked where Wang Xiaohu had gone. When Yilin saw the posture of the girls, he surrounded him, with a "if you don't recruit me from the truth, I'll kill him right there." In desperation, he had no choice but to tell the truth, so that the girls would quickly give up. I'm just telling you, don't tell anyone, I'm afraid his parents will be unhappy. Your little tiger brother is on a business trip to become a monk. I do not believe. We don't believe it. Lin Yi, you are lying. Brother Xiaohu is so handsome. He's so strong. He's so lovable. Why do you want to be a monk? You, Lin Yi, must be jealous of brother Xiaohu's peerless elegance. Well, a girl who has never read a book can even blurt out the words unparalleled elegance. It seems that she has listened to Uncle Niu's boasting a lot. It stands to reason that these girls should be shocked and frightened when Yilin transforms, returns to her hometown in fine clothes, and becomes an immortal. But maybe it's because they grew up with Yilin, and Yilin's words and deeds are very down to earth, unlike Jian Nanchun next door, who makes people feel the aura that is thousands of miles away from the angle of their nostrils, so they for a while, he couldn't change the way he got along with Yilin. To put it nicely, Yilin and these girls are all childhood sweethearts, the childhood sweethearts he and Xiaohu share. It's just that he's not that familiar and can't develop a bloody story. In the end, Yilin couldn't withstand the bombardment of a group of girls. He could only yell, "Whoever doesn't believe it, go to Ping'an Temple in Qingdu and look for Wang Xiaohu, he will be there." After saying that, Yilin threw a smoke bomb at his feet. Boom! When the girls came to their senses again, Lin Yi disappeared without a trace. The girl's story seems to have ended here. It is said that after Lin Yi left, a few particularly infatuated people picked up their bags and headed north in the troubled times, bound to reach Heian Temple. Whether it's asking for a child, asking about good or bad luck, or reading faces, just ask for clarification. This is something. Sunset and dusk. There was a little white cat lying next to Yilin. Yilin sat alone on the roof of the forest house, like a transparent person, watching the sunrise and sunset, and people coming and going in the village, feeling particularly peaceful. Does the immortal have something on his mind? Bai Chu asked boldly. Yes, and no. Yilin smiled, and said softly in a casual tone as if she was expressing her thoughts to her pet, a person's life passes by in a hurry and is extremely short. Some people are always living, and some are still alive. People have always wanted to live. Sometimes I think, if I hadn't been thinking about it in my heart, living in this place for the rest of my life would have no regrets and it would be enough. Bai Chu listened quietly. I used to think that it would be very difficult to live a lifelong life. I couldn't even see the future. By the way, I used to have a friend named Oulele. He always said that he wanted to marry a young wife. I just want to tell him that he may not survive until that time. I have lived here for 13 years. The life here is so leisurely that I have the illusion that I have no regrets. Yes, there is a feeling that even if I am buried now, there is nothing to regret. I am so thought. Sometimes I wonder if feeling people's joys and sorrows and enjoying the quiet passage of time is one of the meanings of my coming here. Shangxian, Mao Mao couldn't help but speak when he saw Yilin's words trailing off. Chu Chu has lived for more than 100 years, but he still wants to continue living, the longer the better. Therefore, Chu Chu doesn't understand how Shangxian wants to die. When did I say I wanted to die? Yilin rubbed the cat's head. You don't understand, you shouldn't understand. The desire to live is normal. It's me, it's not normal. As he said that, Yilin's eyes fell into the distance. There, Father Lin, Mother Lin, and Xia Xiaoman were carrying buckets and poles respectively, returning from the fields and fish ponds. The three of them were talking and laughing, and in just 2 or 3 days, they became so close to each other. Familiar, I have to say that this eldest princess still has some diplomatic skills. The setting sun dragged the shadows of the 3 people, 2 long and 1 short, all the way to the foot of Lin's house. Time to go. Yilin smiled, patted the cat's butt, jumped down, and shouted to the people returning home from a distance, "Let's go, meow, it's time to eat. Let's have hot pot tonight." Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 868. Lin Yi returned to the village on the 5th day. Snowing. This is the first snow in the 13th year of Daqian dynasty, Jinping province, and Jishengli. The fine snow was flying, but before it fell, most of it had melted and wet the ground. In the fine snow, a guest in white clothes, holding a snow-white paper umbrella, walked 10 meters in the snow without leaving a trace, and floated in like a flying swallow in the sky. As expected of senior brother Jian, you never miss an opportunity to show off. Yilin stood at the door. Under the supervision of Father Lin and Mother Lin, she wrapped herself in a jacket. Looking at Jian Nanchun, who was dressed in white and dressed in snow, she looked particularly classy, and couldn't help but complain. "Junior brother, I'm sorry." Jian Nanchun smiled faintly and shook his umbrella under the eaves. There was no snow on his body. He inadvertently glanced at Xia Xiaoman, who was busy filling fresh charcoal into the brazier in the house and preparing to light the fire, with a voice that only 2 people could hear. The voice whispered, "As my junior brother said, the king of Genies has stationed 100,000 troops, trained 10,000 war horses, stored 40 warehouses of grain, and cast thousands of boxes of iron armor. There are indeed signs of starting an army. I don't know if it will be in the near future or in the future." Yilin was silent. Jian Nanchun added, "No wonder, senior brother, I have been observing the stars recently and nightly, and I have seen the dim purple stars surrounded by several stars. There are red demon stars looming in the southwest sky, the northeast sky is covered with clouds, and the middle sky is hazy. This is the time of war. Mega. Yo." Yilin felt sleepy after hearing this. "Do you still know how to watch stars?" Jian Nanchun's face was full of pride, and he flicked the long bangs on his forehead to the back of his head. "Junior brother Lin, don't underestimate your senior brother. Although your senior brother's talent is not as good as that of junior sister Chao, he is still one of the best among his peers. If it weren't for the headmaster, the supreme master has always only accepted female disciples, so your senior brother will have a place in the quota for direct transmission." Yilin lowered her gaze. "Actually, you can work harder." Jian Nanchun's proud smile suddenly froze. Before he fully understood the meaning of Yilin's words, he subconsciously tightened his legs and said, "Senior brother, you should know yourself. A man should constantly strive to improve himself." While the two were talking, Lin's father and Lin's mother called Lin Yi inside. Jian Nanchun wanted to say something else, but Yilin shook her head. "I understand." After saying that, Yilin ignored Jian Nanchun and walked into the house. As the charcoal in the brazier burns brightly, snow falls outside, and the inside feels as warm as spring. "Come on, son, it's cold outside. Come in and warm yourself by the fire." Mother Lin waved to Lin Yi. Yilin smiled. "When burning charcoal, remember to keep it ventilated to avoid carbon monoxide poisoning." Xia Xiaoman. Mother Lin. Father Lin. Yilin continued, "I raised that white-haired kitten. When I'm not around, I asked you to take good care of it." Father Lin opened his mouth, but was speechless. Yilin was still minding her own business and said, "Remember to stock up on food in the winter." There is also a kind of fish in the fish pond with very thick subcutaneous fat, which is suitable for raising in the pond in winter. If you save food, you should be fine for the winter. If there is no food, yes, just tell the cat, maybe there will be more food in the house the next day. Meow. The little white cat clinging to Yilin's feet made a sweet meow at the right time. The cat came forward. But Father Lin and Mother Lin felt that the meow was weird, and there was a hint of domineering hidden in the sweetness, which they could not detect. And I left a little ball for you under the bed. If you are in danger, just pull off the ring and throw it out. If anything happens, remember to run, and don't forget to take my cat with you. Meow. Yilin gave her detailed instructions bit by bit. It ranges from war and chaos to daily life. While talking, Mother Lin shed tears. The child is gone. Xia Xiaoman felt the strange emotions in the room, and somehow felt uncomfortable. Damn it, I obviously didn't say goodbye to my parents by myself. This princess feels so uncomfortable. Xia Xiaoman was struggling in his heart, but he said, Uncle, Aunt, it's getting late, we have something to do, so we'll leave first. Wait a minute. Father Lin hurriedly entered the inner room, took out a box, opened it, and found a delicate wooden bracelet inside. The wooden bracelet looked a bit strange upon closer inspection. It was actually made up of many parts. Father Lin did not know what he had done. With a click, the wooden bracelet opened. With another click, before Xia Xiaoman could react, the wooden bracelet was firmly clasped on Xia Xiaoman's slender wrist. This is the heirloom of our Lin family, the Kinkan twist lock. There is a hidden ingenuity inside. It is said that every time it is opened and closed, a different unlocking method will be generated. Legend has it that only the destined person can open the Kinkan twist lock, Xiaoman. Uncle thinks you like it, so I will give this worthless thing to you. After saying that, Father Lin winked at Yilin while Xia Xiaoman was not paying attention. Wait, didn't we just talk about family heirlooms? Why do you suddenly say this is a worthless thing? The ancestors of the Lin family are furious. Yilin couldn't laugh or cry. I said, am I your son now or is she your son? If you don't give me the family heirloom, you will give it to her. TCH, there's nothing we can do. The ancestors of the Lin family have told us from generation to generation that the twisting lock of the universe is passed down from female to male. How did it get into your hands? Hey, your grandfather put this lock on your mother's hand back then. Mother Lin was so ashamed that she quickly hid in the inner room. Xia Xiaoman was dumbfounded. After a few twists and turns, she found out that the Kinkan twist lock was really not something that Lin's father just blew up. With Xia Xiaoman's cultivation level of the 9th level of Qi, which was a little higher than that of senior brother Lin Yi, he actually couldn't forcefully unscrew the Kinkan twist lock. After the explanation was almost finished, Yilin dragged Xia Xiaoman, who was locked in the Kinkan twist lock, out of the house. Outside the house, Jian Nanchun was holding an umbrella. He smiled slightly, and the oil umbrella turned into a sword and hung in front of him. Why can't you unscrew it? Bastard! Xia Xiaoman and Kinkan locked arms. Put it on first, don't forget, you owe my family an heirloom. The heirloom can only be paid back with the heirloom. Yilin refused to suffer, and casually let Xia Xiaoman owe an heirloom while taking out the jet skateboard. Step on the board. He looked back and saw that inside the room, Father Lin was blushing and looking very happy. He took out a bottle of rare shaku and was about to pour it into the cup. Father Lin noticed Yilin's gaze and waved his hand, as if to say, get out of here. Walk. Yilin stepped on the skateboard and soared into the sky. In addition, Jian Nanchun had Xia Xiaoman on his flying sword, following closely behind. In Lin's house, Father Lin began to drink alone. He laughed and scolded Mother Lin, who was hiding in the room and crying heartbrokenly, Mother, why are you crying? It's not like my son has never run away. You know nothing. It's not dug out of your belly, so of course you don't feel bad. Aren't you worried that he will be bullied outside? Aren't you worried that he is a bad student? Aren't you worried that he won't be able to find a wife? Who said I don't feel sorry for you anymore? Father Lin drank the wine in one gulp and said with a smile, his face wrinkled, besides, you are so worried. Don't forget, no matter what the men of the Lin family look like, they are all good at deceiving their wives. Besides, with the strong alcohol burning his throat, Father Lin slapped the table, with tears hidden in his cloudy eyes, but his voice was sonorous and powerful. Good man, you should aim in all directions. Yilin felt relieved after going home. Before leaving, Bai Chuchu nestled on the roof, covered with goose feathers and fine snow, looking at Yilin pitifully. But Yilin can't take away the tigress. Otherwise, who will take care of the village? He could only make up his mind and ignore Meow Meow's eyes. It can only be said that fate plays tricks on people, and the art of taming animals is too overbearing. Flying high in the sky, Yilin used telekinesis to make a shield for herself to isolate the wind and snow. On the other side, Xia Xiaoman couldn't continue fighting with Kinkin Twisted Lock, because she was shivering from the cold on Jian Nanchun's flying sword. Tisk, junior sister, after all you are a monk at the 9th level of Qi. By transporting Qi to your Danshan and using basic techniques, you can easily keep out the cold. The implication is, don't disgrace the monks of Tianjian sect again. Jian Nanchun reminded him kindly and sighed secretly, why did he bring a rookie out? Looking at junior brother Lin again, they both entered the mountain at the same time, but junior brother Lin has already mastered the weapon refining and formation techniques, and remains motionless on the gliding board. With such a temperament, it is very difficult to be 100 or 200% better than him. Jian Nanchun didn't know Yilin was cheating, and thought Yilin was using exercises to keep out the cold. When Xia Xiaoman heard this, she realized that this was a path she had never imagined, so she tried her luck for a few laps, but she didn't expect it to work, and she was very happy. Junior brother Lin, where are we going now? The three of them split into 2 cars and flew all the way, crossing villages and counties until they arrived at the border of Jinping province. Jian Nanchun finally couldn't help but dangle the rivet on his flying sword and asked, by the way, junior brother Lin, you haven't told senior brother yet, tell me, how should you use this little magic weapon of yours? Are we going to find junior sister Qiao? I was thinking. Yilin had been deep in thought after coming out of Qingnu village. It wasn't until Jian Nanchun shouted from a distance and asked where he was going next that Yilin came back to his senses, looked into the depths of the wind and snow, and murmured to himself, what would happen if we killed King Genies when we passed by? Hiss. Yilin's voice was not loud, but Jian Nanchun, as a Qi practitioner, had sharp ears and eyes, and could distinguish all directions. When he heard Yilin whispering softly to himself, he was so frightened that the hairs on his body stood up. He quickly raised his head and looked at the sky, fearing that a bolt of lightning would hit junior brother Lin's forehead in broad daylight and harm the innocent 2 people next door.